I guess I should maybe declare an interest. My partner is Hungarian, my neighbour is Czech, my lodger was French. Amex has the European call centre in my constituency. I, of course, helped push and work on the Erasmus Plus legal base. I lived in Belgium. I worked in Berlin. I am an EU citizen with EU rights. And at this critical time in our country's history, it is of course disappointing, but not very surprising at the moment with this government, that this bill demonstrates another colossal stealing of those rights for many EU citizens who might not happen to be here at the right date or the right time. There are many problems with this bill. It removes the right of EU citizens to enter the UK without leave of the Secretary of State, even if the process will be simple and easy. It fails to honestly address the open border in Northern Ireland, where, of course, we will end up having a diverging EU immigration policy within the island of Ireland. It fails to give assurances against the exorbitant fees that we currently charge many people coming to the UK and now might charge EU citizens. It fails to give reassurances to those visitors who may come to the UK but want to change their status, and it might mean that they have to do the same ridiculous runaround that non-EU migrants have to do, where they have to leave the country to reapply for a different immigration system and come back in. It's currently farcical for non-EU migrants, and what this does is introduce that farce for EU citizens as well. It moves us to a race to the bottom on migration issues rather than seeking the best. And that is the problem with this bill. But I want to in particular call attention to clause 4, of course, which gives these Henry VIII powers, allowing the Secretary of State swathes of power to determine without this place deciding. Have we learnt nothing, of course, from Windrush? Have we learnt nothing from the disregard that this government treats many migrants in this country? I wouldn't trust this government. I actually wouldn't trust many governments with the right to, without fetterment of the Parliament, to decide on immigration. How is it appropriate, of course, that this government that has been shown to be so inept can give themselves these swathes of powers? It cannot be allowed to be able to deny EU citizens their rights in this way. And things, of course, have got so bad generally with immigration. When I now write to the Minister who's sitting on the bench there about immigration issues, she doesn't bother writing to me back. She gets a civil servant in the liaison team to give me a bog-standard pro forma letter, not even engaging on the issue. That is what this minister has come to, and that is what this government has come to. Dispassionate about individual issues and only worrying about the number on the visa or the number of migrants. And it is wrong, and what they want to do now is extend that to others. And members of my constituency speak of that injustice. Last month, a man who had worked here for 20 years, who had an NHS pension, who had 2 medical businesses, was rejected of permanent residency by this government. He was an EU citizen, and the reason they gave, despite him spending £1,000 on an immigration lawyer to fill in the right paperwork, is that they hadn't got exactly the right paperwork and the right boxes hadn't quite been ticked. Now, we will appeal, of course, on that, and we will be successful. But he had 23 odd years of national insurance payments. The government could have looked that up rather than instead worrying about the boxes that are ticked and not about the people that matter. So, Mr. Speaker, many people have lived in the UK for many of their lives, and they might spend now 3 or 4 years out working. They might have been a German citizen, raised here in school, spent 4 or 5 years now out of the country working, and they will now have to fulfil all the immigration checks, even though they see Britain as their homeland, because they came here as an EU citizen. I was granted EU citizenship in 1992, as most of us were. My brother was born an EU citizen, and I fail to see why people who were born with citizenship rights should suddenly have them taken away. My view is if we have to go down this route, at least what we should say is everyone that was born before exit date continues to have the EU citizens' rights for the rest of their lives. That is the only fair thing to do when you are depriving people of their rights, because that is what this bill does. And the other dangerous thing of what we might end up seeing is these huge costs that are given at the moment. £8,000 it can cost an employer and employee to come from outside of the EU. £2,000 just on the NHS surcharge, even though they will, of course, pay taxes and contribute to the NHS. And, of course, it only costs £127 for the Home Office to process this, and the charge for leave to remain is £1,220. £1,000, 1,000% profit that is made by this government. It is disgraceful, and these are figures from the Home Office themselves. I know the Minister is frowning at these things. So, Mr Speaker, we must vote down this bill tonight because it is wrong in principle, it is wrong in practice, and we must stand up for what is wrong.
Well done. Catherine West.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and it's a pleasure to make some concluding remarks in this debate, and indeed to follow the honourable member for Brighton Kemp Town with his excellent